The salt-laced air of the South China Sea crackled with tension as dawn broke over restless waters. This was no ordinary morning. Beneath the surface, old rivalries simmered, and the world watched with bated breath. A Chinese Luoyang 3-class destroyer cut through the waves, its hull slicing the sea with purpose. The ship's mission was clear: to assert Beijing's growing dominance in these contested waters, and to remind all who sailed here of China's expanding reach. Its orders were simple but bold: to project power, to draw a line in the water, and to challenge any who dared cross the ever-expanding red line of Chinese influence. On the distant horizon, a new shape emerged. An American Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, the USS John Finn, appeared, conducting freedom of navigation operations. Its presence was a direct challenge, a signal that the United States would not be deterred. To the Chinese captain, this was more than a routine patrol. It was a provocation, a test of resolve in what he considered his own backyard. The initial radio calls crackled with tension, sharp, clipped, and almost hostile. The Chinese destroyer demanded the USS John Finn alter course immediately, accusing the Americans of violating Chinese territorial waters, claims that the international community and the law of the sea did not recognize. On board the American ship, the crew stood ready, calm, professional, and unwavering. They had trained for moments like this, and their discipline was evident. The Chinese commander expected the Americans to back down, as others had before. But this time, the USS John Finn held its ground. The American captain, resolute and confident, knew his mission, his rights under international law, and the strength of his ship and crew. He would not yield. The Chinese destroyer had just challenged a U.S. Navy warship. It was a grave miscalculation, one that would have consequences far beyond this single encounter. The tension on the water was palpable, almost electric. Two powerful navies faced off, each waiting for the other to blink, knowing that even the smallest misstep could ignite a crisis. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo far beyond these contested waters. In the South China Sea, a single spark could ignite a firestorm. A big mistake was about to unfold, and the world was watching. The South China Sea is a geopolitical flashpoint, a theater of competing claims and rising tensions. China asserts sovereignty over nearly the entire sea, clashing with the exclusive economic zones of Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. Beijing has built artificial islands and militarized them, challenging the international order. The U.S. insists on freedom of navigation, keeping vital sea lanes open for global trade. U.S. Navy Freedom of Navigation Operations, or FONOPs, send a clear message. These waters are not the property of any single nation. Each FONOP triggers a cycle. U.S. ships sail, China responds with shadowing and harassment. The plan has grown rapidly, becoming more assertive and increasing the risk of miscalculation. This isn't just about rocks and reefs. It's about the future of global power. China sees the South China Sea as vital to its security and ambitions. The U.S. presence reassures allies and upholds international law. Every encounter here is a high-stakes chess match on a vast, watery board. At the center of this drama was the USS John Finn, DDG 113. As an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, she's the backbone of the U.S. Navy's surface fleet. Designed for multi-front warfare, she's packed with advanced technology. The John Finn's Aegis combat system links powerful radars, computers, and missile launchers, tracking over 100 targets at once. Her VLS cells carry a lethal mix of missiles for every threat, but her true strength lies in her crew. 300 of the Navy's best, drilled for every scenario. The commanding officer is empowered to make split-second decisions, relying on training and experience. The John Finn's presence in the South China Sea was a statement of American resolve. She reassured allies and warned adversaries, freedom of the seas will be defended. The Chinese destroyer may have been newer, but it was about to learn a hard lesson. The Dragon had picked a fight with a ghost that was very real. The stage was set for a test of technology, training, and will. The encounter began as many do in these highly contested waters, where tension is always just beneath the surface and every maneuver is watched with suspicion. The Chinese destroyer, moving with deliberate intent, altered its course to intercept the USS John Finn. Over the radio, a stern warning crackled through the static. "You are entering Chinese territorial waters. This is a restricted zone. Alter your course immediately," the Chinese voice demanded. But the John Finn's captain, unflinching, calmly replied, affirming their right to transit these waters under international law, citing freedom of navigation principles. The Chinese commander, visibly frustrated by the American resolve, escalated the situation. His ship surged forward, cutting across the John Finn's bow at an unsafe distance, a maneuver designed to provoke and intimidate. This dangerous tactic was meant to send a message, a signature move for the plan, showcasing their willingness to push boundaries and test the resolve of their adversaries. The tension mounted as the Chinese crew manned weapon stations, uncovered missile launchers, and trained their main gun directly on the John Finn. a clear, non-verbal threat that left no room for misinterpretation. On board the John Finn, every move was tracked with precision and discipline. The crew, well-drilled for such encounters, maintained their composure, eyes fixed on their screens and instruments. The ship's advanced Spy 1 radar swept the skies and seas, monitoring for threats above, below, and all around, ensuring that nothing went unnoticed in this high-stakes standoff. In the Combat Information Center, sailors worked seamlessly to build a complete tactical picture, analyzing every signal and movement, ready to respond at a moment's notice. The Chinese captain, standing tall on his bridge, believed he was dictating the terms of engagement, confident that his aggressive tactics would force the Americans to back down. He was wrong. The Americans, calm and methodical, saw every card he played and more. Their experience in such confrontations gave them an edge, allowing them to anticipate and counter every move. The standoff intensified, with both sides locked in a silent battle of nerves, but the John Finn's crew remained unshaken, their training and discipline shining through. As the minutes ticked by, it became clear that the Chinese destroyer was about to lose control of the game, its aggressive posturing failing to break the American resolve. The balance of power was shifting, and in these tense waters, every decision would have lasting consequences for both sides. As the Chinese destroyer pressed its aggressive maneuvers, the USS John Finn's captain made his move. The tension on the bridge was palpable, every officer alert as the two warships danced dangerously close in the open sea. With a precise turn, the John Finn shifted the geometry of the encounter, gaining a tactical advantage on the Chinese ship's flank. The maneuver was executed flawlessly, catching the Chinese crew off guard and forcing them to reassess their position. A new voice crackled over the radio. "Chinese warship 175, this is U.S. Navy warship John Finn. We are tracking your weapon systems and your YJ-18 anti-ship missiles. Your every move is under our watchful eye. Any hostile act will be met with a decisive response." The message stunned the Chinese crew. The Americans weren't just watching, they were seeing everything. The realization sent a ripple of unease through the bridge. Then came the real shock. "We're also tracking the planned submarine shadowing you for the past 3 hours at 20 kilometers. Your underwater support is not as hidden as you believed. We have a weapons-grade lock. Recommend you stand down." The hunter had become the hunted. The tables had turned in an instant, and the Chinese realized their own tactics had been anticipated and countered. The Chinese destroyer's aggressive maneuvers ceased. The ship's engines throttled back, and the once confident vessel now moved with caution. The ship slowed, its confidence evaporating. The crew, once brimming with bravado, now exchanged worried glances as the reality of their situation set in. The Chinese captain realized the Americans had been in control all along. Every move had been anticipated, every tactic countered before it could unfold. The tactical advantage had been a mirage. What seemed like dominance was actually a carefully laid trap. The John Finn's dominance was total, quiet, calculated, and overwhelming. The crew maintained their composure, knowing they had turned the tide without resorting to force. The plan's coordinated effort had been exposed and neutralized. Their strategy, once thought to be airtight, was now in shambles. The standoff ended not with a shot, but with a silent, decisive checkmate. In this high-stakes game, information and precision had trumped aggression. The John Finn had demonstrated mastery without firing a missile. Their restraint was as powerful as their technology, sending a clear message to all who watched. The lesson was clear. The U.S. Navy's edge is in information, not intimidation. Superior intelligence and control of the battle space had made all the difference. The tables had turned in the South China Sea, the balance of power had shifted, and the world was watching as the hunter became the hunted. The revelation of the tracked submarine sent shockwaves through the Chinese command. The John Finn hadn't fired a shot, but it had won the engagement through information dominance. The message was clear. "We see you, we know your every move." The U.S. crew offered the Chinese captain a way to back down without public humiliation. The John Finn resumed its course, projecting unshakable confidence. The U.S. Navy would not be deterred from its mission. This was a masterclass in modern naval warfare, victory through superior awareness and decision-making. The edge no longer belongs to the ship with the biggest guns, but to the one that sees and decides fastest. The John Finn's seamless integration of technology, intelligence, and training was unmatched. The Chinese destroyer, for all its hardware, was blind and deaf by comparison. In the data fight, the U.S. Navy reigned supreme. The encounter was over, but its lessons would echo far beyond these waters. What gave the USS John Finn its overwhelming advantage? Superior technology, relentless training, and empowered leadership. The Aegis combat system, linked to a vast network of sensors, gave the John Finn a god's-eye view of the battle space. Detecting and tracking a submarine in the South China Sea is no small feat. Information superiority made it possible. But technology is only as good as the people behind it. The John Finn's crew trains relentlessly, building muscle memory and instinct for high-stress encounters. U.S. Navy commanders are trusted to act independently, seizing initiative without waiting for distant orders. This culture of mission command contrasts sharply with the plan's rigid hierarchy. The result, a force that adapts, learns, and outthinks its adversaries. China's Navy is growing fast, but building a culture of trust and expertise takes generations. In the South China Sea, the human element proved decisive. In the aftermath, a telling silence descended. No triumphant press releases, no angry denunciations, just quiet after-action reports. This silence was a victory for the U.S., denying Beijing a chance to spin the narrative. The John Finn's crew returned to business as usual, their actions decisive but not destructive. They had de-escalated a dangerous situation and achieved their objective. The message to every plan captain: test a U.S. Navy warship at your own peril. The incident became a sobering lesson for the Chinese Navy, exposing gaps in their command and situational awareness. The true power of the U.S. Navy lies in its invisible network of sensors, training, and doctrine. Allies took note. The U.S. commitment to their security is real and demonstrable. China's ambitions remain, but the risks of confrontation are now clearer. The U.S. Navy showed it can win the game of chicken, not by swerving, but by seeing the whole road ahead. The face-off between the USS John Finn and the Chinese destroyer was a glimpse into the future of naval power. Modern conflict is about information, seeing, deciding, and acting faster than the adversary. The U.S. Navy's investment in networks, AI, and empowered crews paid off. Submarines remain a key asymmetric advantage, shaping the strategic environment from beneath the waves. For the plan, this was a hard lesson in joint operations and situational awareness. They'll adapt, but the U.S. edge is clear. The Indo-Pacific naval competition is a marathon, not a sprint. Peace is preserved by credible, forward-deployed power, not hope alone. As long as China challenges the order, future encounters are inevitable. But as this event showed, the U.S. Navy is not just present, it's prepared. Challenging the wrong destroyer can be a very big mistake.